Hey, what is going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome to another video in, well, whatever I happen to be doing at the time. I want to start out by apologizing for my voice. It is, I don't know, raspy and something not quite right today. I haven't put my finger on it yet. But anyhow, what I wanted to talk to you about today is it's kind of like your work pipeline, like the applications you use as we're working on our maps, and more specifically, as we're working on models, our 3D models, and we're texturing and we're basically the asset pipeline, right? So everything we do to get the things done, right? And so hopefully you've been practicing and getting better with Blender. And you've been applying your skills as far as texturing goes and that sort of thing and getting better at it. Now, each method, should I say, that we have for doing textures, right? It has its ups and downs. So each one has their advantages and disadvantages, right? So starting out, the easiest and the most efficient way to go is what you see here. These houses I did here is by using the Giants asset, or the Giants texture atlas. Right. So really easy. I'm sure we're all familiar with, having our model here and just kind of willy nilly, just sort of unwrapping haphazardly over here on the left hand side. Right. Doesn't really matter what order it goes in or if it overlaps or anything like that. As long as it gets done, we are good to go. Right. So the one disadvantage is you're missing, well, one, the building shader, right. Which more or less has your ambient occlusion. Now, I know that the textures themselves have ambient occlusion, right? But that's just for the texture. What you want is the ambient occlusion for the 3D mesh, right? So anywhere an object like overlaps or maybe like in the corners, it creates a shadow, right? Any crevices have a shadow, like in the corners here. So, it really makes things stand out. Like this door over here has there's a square piece here, right? And it's actually inset, and you should see the shadow that shows that's inset. Same with the column. You should be able to see the individual pieces here, but you can't. It just looks like one big lump of whatever. Now you can create the shader mask, the building shader mask. It's not so straightforward. You have to create a second UV map, unwrap it separately. So anyhow, it can be done, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. Without it, your models just look too clean. I don't know. They don't have that weathered look to it. All right. But in the beginning, it's fine. It serves its purpose. I have these on my current map, so I have no issue with it. Right. And especially starting out, once I got that much figured out, I was in my glory. Hey, look what I got. And I'm sure you felt the same way. Looks good to me. All right. But it can be improved upon. So the next logical step would be moving probably to PBR textures, right? They look a little more realistic, a little more flexibility as far as what you can do with them, but they still have their disadvantages. One being there's a lot of overhead with it, right? Even if you bake your textures, you're still carrying that overhead of the extra images, whereas this Giants texture atlas, they're already done for you. You don't have to create any images. They're all part of the base game. There is zero overhead, right? Except for maybe the building shader and a custom height map if you choose to go parallax. All right. So you get into PBR, you start working with that. Again, advantages, disadvantages. At least you're making some kind of headway. Things are looking pretty good. The next step from there, I would think, you would want to go with Substance Painter, right? Maybe learn how to work Substance Designer and Substance Sampler, right? So you got 3 applications there. And as far as that goes, extremely powerful programs. And as far as I'm concerned, I think, the difference is night and day. Like some of the models, I think I showed you this on my last video. Not sure what I did with them over here. All right. It's like night and day. They look way better than, your base game textures. Everything looks really, really good. Sky's the limit. But again, you have that overhead that you have to carry with you. All those extra textures, they really add up, right? So my current project, if I look at my current project, right, this is my prefab folder for my current project. I am looking at over a gigabyte. That's insane for just your prefabs. Now, don't get me wrong. I went a little crazy on this, on this map. I built literally everything, almost, not everything, but if you can see it, I probably a 90% chance that I built it. Either way, there's a lot of overhead that comes with it. But it's a great application. That's as far as you pretty much want to go as far as asset creation, right? And then there are some other drawbacks, like prepping the meshes, UV unwrapping, stuff like that. There's kind of a very unique way, not a unique way to do it. It's a strict, I don't even know how to say it, but you have to do it a certain way. There's a certain way that your meshes need to be prepared for Substance Painter to be able to bake all of your images into one baked image, right? And it has to do with like vertex paint and vertex color. And if you try to take your Blender model, like if you have a model here, now you see all these materials that I have in here, right? If I was to just ship this over to Substance Painter the way it is, with all these materials intact, it would create, at least 3 textures per material. So if you have 5 materials, you're looking at 15 textures. Well, that's not going to work. All right. So everything has to be unwrapped really nicely. That's why this house is looking the way it is. It's all cut up and, unwrapped really nicely. Because eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint each one of these textures or each one of these materials with a different color, different vertex paint color. Right. And then I'm going to go back and delete all but one of these materials. Then I'm going to export it over to Substance Painter. And then what kind of stinks is you always need a backup copy because if things go wrong, then you deleted all of you delete all your materials. You have to go back and restore them. It's a pain, man. It really is. All right. So the one thing about Substance Painter, so like I said, if you started with, maybe your Giants assets, your texture atlases and stuff like that. And, you worked your way up to PBRs and, pretty soon you get the itch and you want to do something bigger and better. And I think the one major drawback to Substance Painter, besides a slight learning curve, is the price tag, right? It's a subscription model. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. Now there's ways to get it through, obviously you can get it through Steam and you can, pay one price for, I don't want to say an unlimited license, but it's a perpetual license. You're just locked into that one version for the length of the license. But there's still a price tag, right? So now what if I had told you all of these things but like Substance Designer, Substance Sampler, Substance Painter, like all of these things that you feel like you're held back, you want to take that extra step, but you don't want to have that price tag. There is a product available, right? Free of charge that does everything that your Adobe products can do and more, as good or if not better. And I'm not lying. The thing about Adobe products, right, is they split it up. You have Designer, you have Painter, you have Sampler. So depending on what you want to do, you have 3 different applications that you have to work through, to get these things done. All right. This program wraps all of those up into one program and then some, right? So it does things that your Adobe products doesn't even do. We can create meshes, we can unwrap, you can do all sorts of painting. Like, God, you can just generate things with nodes. It's incredible. This is an extremely, extremely powerful program, and it is free of charge. So if you have been thinking about Substance Painter for your next step and you're contemplating that price tag, I urge you to hold off until you can check this out. So let's head over to the website. I want to show you what I'm talking about. I'm eager to get into this myself. As far as this program goes, I am very new to it. I did discover it a little while back, but I haven't really given it much time. I dabbled in it, and I just, I was already into Substance Painter at the time, but this program is good enough that it's making me reconsider whether or not I even need my Adobe products anymore. Honest to God. All right, so let's head over to the website and see what we have. We're going to bring this up. If you want to go to Instamaterial.com. All right, so if you see your webpage looks something like what I have here, or exactly like what I have here, you're in the right place. All right. So, like I said, this is called Instamaterial.com. Go up here into the right-hand side of your screen, click on Get It for Free. Scroll down a little ways and you see here Instamat for Pioneers. Now, they do have other products, by the way. They have this Insta LOD and Insta Rec, which I'm not sure what that one is. LOD is obvious. And speaking of LODs, there's the reason I didn't come out with this sooner, the Instamat, is I've been trying to get videos done in a certain order, only because I don't want to like present you with something that's only going to confuse you. You know what I mean? Like learning about LODs, I want to make sure these guys, there's certain things I want you to learn before you take that next step. But I feel like this one's just too good. I feel like you need to get in there, start learning things, right? Start really taking your asset creation up to the next level. All right. So anyhow, we got Instamat for Pioneers. Now with this, you want to click on the Get Instamat. Now there are requirements, right? It is free. You have to requires attribution and data sharing, which is not bad. You have to agree to share your data. Not a big deal. Most programs give you that option anyhow. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Not a big deal. When you see this program, you'll be more than happy to oblige. Trust me. Other than that, you have to, if you're running a business, you have to be making less than 100 grand a year. Probably not an issue. I cut it awfully close because, when I didn't, I was far from that mark, which I'm sure most of us are. Right. So anyhow, like I said, you want to go through this. Now you're going to have to sign up for an account. You're going to have to verify your email and jump through a few hoops. But you will be able to download it free of charge. Not a problem. I'll warn you ahead of time that the download process isn't the most intuitive or straightforward, but I'm sure given just a little bit of time, you can, fumble your way through it like I did. Really, well, it wasn't too bad, right? It took a minute or two to figure out where they wanted me to go and what I needed to do, but not bad. You'll get it, right? So get that downloaded, get it installed. All right. And once you do, right, you should be looking at a screen like this when you start it up. It says Instamat. You can see that it's early access 2024, brand new. I believe this just came out in January. I think I found it not long after that, end of February, beginning of March. So it's really recent for me. Like I said, I downloaded to open it, said this is awesome, but I was really busy with other stuff. So it wasn't until this weekend I really got a chance to really dig in a little bit more. And man, this thing just blew my mind. It's that good. It really is. All right. So like I said, here in the beginning of this beginning screen here, we can create a new project, open a project if you have one. This middle thing here is your recent projects. Well, obviously you can see right-hand side is any like recent videos, kind of like a news feed, something like that. They do have lots of tutorial videos. So that's the good thing about this product. Is you're not going in completely blind. They do have a YouTube channel. You can hop on over there and you can kind of get your feet wet, learn a few things and not so bad. All right. So let's create a new project. We'll click on that first of all. All right. So looking at this is kind of like the breakdown of like what I was telling you before. This layering here is more like a substance painter, I would think. Material layering. Not sure. At first, I was going to say more substance designer, but I think this element craft is more the substance designer, right? So this is more using like node based, like I don't want to say geometry nodes, but yeah, node based, procedural geometry. All right, and then Materialize image, that would be more like Materialize itself, and we should be familiar with Materialize. This puts Materialize to shame, by the way. But it's more like Adobe's Substance sampler, right? So you can take any old image, you can walk into your kitchen right now, take a picture of your hardwood floor, slap it in there, and in no time flat, you can create some kind of like a PBR texture set out of it, right? That you can use in any one of your projects. Really, really awesome. All right, so I'm not really going to go through the rest of these. Like I said, they're all extremely powerful in their own right, and I recommend you learn them all because, man. You get to knowing this application and you're well on your way. So let's go into layering here. Now here's where you would put all your project information in there if you have one. The mesh right here is anything that you happen to be working on in Blender. Now you can't upload your Blender file or open, but if you save it, you export it from Blender as an FBX or a OBJ, it will take either one of those and it won't be a problem. And then you can texture your models inside of this program. All right. But instead of doing that, I'm going to go down here to this Instamat crate, this tutorial here. I'm going to click on that. All right. And that is going to open up in a second. Take 1 second to open it. All right. That's going to open the program here. Opening up way bigger than I thought I thought it was going to. All right. So you should be looking at something like this. Okay. You should have this nice little crate here. For some reason, my background's not as blurry as it used to be. The nice thing is here, you can go into the settings here, right? So you have settings for everything, right? So my environment, I can change anything that I want, right? So you can change your environment any old way. I forget what I had it on. It was default, whatever I was on. Let's see here. It's like an industrial setting. But anyhow, you can change that however you want. The opacity, turn that up and down. If you want it brighter, you want it less bright. If you want it more blurry, you like it that way, you can do that. This does literally everything. I mean, you can show the grid if you want to see the grid. You can show normals if you want to see those. I believe this even has like a rotation. You can continually rotate your object. I don't know why it's not rotating now. Oh, it is. It's just, you can't really see my background, right? Let me see if I can do this. If I blur, there we go. So you can see it is rotating, right? And then you have camera orbit where you can have your camera just orbit. I guess if you just want to kick your feet back and kind of, check out your handiwork, I guess. But anyhow, the options are unlimited. Like I said, this thing is extremely powerful and for free. That's why I recommend you get in on it now before they wise up and, and decide that they can be making a lot of money off of this program. But anyhow, your settings are over here. You can go through here and adjust just about everything. New packages, if you want to create your own packages, you can do that here, and I'll explain in a minute or two what that is. Over here, your Instamat, this is all your starting. Well, you have to look through it. You have to look through, like you can change your, like your height maps, like a 16-bit. We don't want 16-bit. We work with 8 bits, for Giants Editor. Same with the normal map, 8-bit. So you can change those sorts of things in here, right? All right. So let's get back over here. Now this is where all of our assets, this is where all the fun stuff happens, right? So I'm going to warn you, like this is not going to be a tutorial on how to work the program. They have lots of tutorials online. Like I said, I'm new to this myself. Now coming over from Substance Painter, it was a little more intuitive, right? So you'll find that a lot of these programs operate basically more or less the same way. Like even moving around is the same as it is in Giants Editor and Substance Painter, right? So they all have something in common. All right. And then over here is your layer stack where you want to be working on your layers, which is really nice. If you're not used to it, like I said, it's not so bad, a bit of a learning curve, but you will get the hang of it pretty quick. All right. And then from here, like it's just, the sky's the limit. Like I said, you can do basically, anything. You have, you can do generators, you have filters, you have, oh my God, here's filters, there's effects. And I really can't explain what all of these things are off the top of my head. This is something I think you want to start slow and kind of work your way into. But what this is capable of, what is above and beyond anything that you're going to achieve with any other application, apart from Adobe. Right. So if we start with something small, we can maybe, we'll give this like a multi-channel layer, maybe give this thing a color, say, I don't know, like bluish or something like that. But from here, you can add like masks, like say you want an edgeware mask, right? Maybe that's not the right color for that. Let's pick a different color. Doesn't show up too. There we go. That shows up a little bit better. All right. So with edgeware, we've all seen these game assets and, in games where, this crate looks like it's been beat up and bumped around and, it's old and scratched and, and here you can adjust all these things. You can adjust more or less scratches, the brightness, if you want them brighter, you want them darker. You can put a layer underneath this. So instead of seeing all these scratches show up as black, you can have them show up metallic. You can have them show up rusty. You can add numerous things to this because it's a layer stack. You can just keep layering effects on here, right? So anything you could think of, you can make it dusty. You can make it dirty. You can make it wet. You can throw stains on it. You can scratch it up a little bit. Anything that you think of, you can do it. All right. So like I said, we have materials, we have different meshes, we got noises, paintbrush. You can paint right on it. It's the sky's the limit. Like I said, everything basically that Substance Painter can do, you can do inside of here. And like they give you all the materials that you're going to need to start out with, right? So if you look inside of here, we want to do like say give it a metal, right? So we look through the metals, see what we have. Maybe we want to give it a greasy iron, right? So we throw that on there, and now we have a greasy looking, iron metallic look. Right. So now there's different ways to do this here. So you just saw me just kind of drop that on there. All right. Now this is where I think is one of the major advantages that it has over Substance Painter. Now, Substance Painter, like I was saying, if I throw all of my materials, if I leave them in my model when I import it into Substance Painter, I'm going to have to export like 15 different images. Not helpful at all. If I want to take all those images and bake it into one central image, which we can do with this, you're going to have to, switch everything over to like a vertex paint, use a vertex color, and you're going to have only one channel in your model when it goes over to Substance Painter, right? Which also, again, is not helpful. But this, when we get into like, if we look at our mask here, maybe down the bottom, maybe I need to add a separate mask. Let's try this mask. Here we go. All right. So you can pick and choose like what you want this to apply to. So let's say, we only want like these hasps and stuff like these buckles, right? So we can make only the buckle is metallic. If you don't want that, you can put like a gold color on there, right? So just drop a gold color right onto it. Now you have a gold buckle, right? So you can already see where I'm going with this. You can just keep layering things on. You can change the look and feel in a second, right? So there's no fumbling around in Blender and UVs and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, these things have to be unwrapped very nicely in a specific way before you can get them into the program. If not, you're going to know right away it's going to be a huge mess. Substance Painter is the one program that got my UV unwrapping skills up to where they needed to be, because every time I tried to texture anything in Substance Painter, it looked like hell. It was not good. Things, oh man, they just showed up like crummy looking. And then I realized it was my UVs. I wasn't doing the greatest job unwrapping them. And then so I had to take a few more tutorials, teach myself a little bit better, do a much better job. So anyhow, you're going to need to be very careful about that. It's very, it's specific the way you need to unwrap things. Anyhow, so once you get that in here, like I said, it's the sky is the limit as far as, what you want to do with these things, just throwing different textures at it. Now, the thing that I do like is, like I just showed you, you can pick and choose, and this is all how you lay out your mesh in Blender, right? So if you don't want to do this by submesh, and by submesh, these would be your different objects, right? So if you're in Blender here, and you can see how I have, these are my materials, I'm sorry, up here, my objects, like I have house 5, but maybe I have like a buckle, I have a door, maybe I have one for roof. So if I created those all with separate objects inside of here, that's what these would be, right? So I could just texture my objects individually just by turning them off and on with a switch. How nice is that, right? But if you didn't happen to do your mesh that way, right, you could always pick it in the viewport. You can just hover over something and do it that way if you want to. All right. And you also can do it by material, right? So maybe I only have one object, but I have 15 materials. So I can just go through now they only have one material here, this Bong one. But anyhow, if you have 10, 15 different materials, you can just turn them off and on. Like maybe you have one material that says brick. You have one that says roof. You have one that says wood. You have one that says, you get the idea, right? It makes it so much easier. And when it exports, you don't have to jump through hoops to try to get it to, export, like to burn everything or to bake everything into one single image, right? Now, even with this, with the file export going over to export image and data outputs, I had already set up this Giants Engine 9. I misspelled it. My bad. Couldn't figure out how to change it right away. I'll start a new one. No big deal. But anyhow, the only reason I made my own my output template is because of our specular mask, right? Because what does our specular mask consist of? It's your smoothness, your ambient occlusion, and your metalness. And you're able to do that up here. You can channel pack just by creating your own output template, right? So same thing in Substance Painter. We had to do the same thing in there. And then we just give it a normal mask, a diffuse. You throw that in there. And then when you want to export, this is what you're going to get. Now, just as easily, I already created a height mask. That was no big deal. That was easy enough to do. The only thing the building shader, I haven't really gotten my head around yet because it's specific objects in specific colors. Like, so your red and your blue channels would be your dirt and your moss. So it takes a little bit. I haven't got my head around that one yet. But anyhow, like I said, I'm brand new to it. So sooner or later, I will get there. All right. But looking down here, you got output converters. You can convert everything to DirectX or OpenGL, depending on which one you want to use. So like I said, very, very, very powerful program. Very, very nice. Right. Or you can pick, regular PBR if you just want to do regular PBR. Sky's the limit. Anything you want. All right. So like I said, you're not limited to just this. You can do decals. You can do, different masks, right? So you want to make it dirty. You want to use a grunge layer. You have, a different alpha, an alpha mask, trying to think of what I want to call it, but I'm stumbling over my words now. But anyhow, like I said, you can put decals, anything, you name it, you can put on this, if you want to make it, look like rock instead of whatever this green thing is. Oh, missed it. Let's go back to Cliff. It's that easy. So you want to throw some rocks in your scene, you can do that. You're not going to go wrong with this program. I promise you that. Right. So like I said, I'm not going to keep beating it up, trying to explain things that I don't know a whole lot about myself. I'm just more or less making the sales pitch here. This is something that you really, really, really need to get over to their website, download your copy before they get smart and decide they're going to start charging for it. Right. And then start diving into the tutorials. Now on my end, what I will do is I will familiarize myself with the program more so, a lot more than I already am. And then this way, maybe we can get some tutorials out there on how you guys can utilize this in your workflow, right? When you're creating your assets. Now, like I said, there's drawbacks to everything. So every asset you create this way, you're going to have to carry around that overhead, those extra images, and they do add up, right? So once you get done adding, like bitmaps to them and converting them over to a DDS and, it depends. If you're doing a house, you have 5 files. You have your diffuse, your specular, your normal, your height map, and your building mask. So it adds up. So you have to pick and choose, right? Which ones, which models you want to do which way. I've done things inside a Substance painter, very, very small, like a tiny little reflector that ends up being almost 10 megs. Crazy. It should, so you have to pick and choose. But anyhow, this is definitely above and beyond. I just can't say enough about it. This is an amazing program. I mean, I'm not doing it any justice by, just fumbling through it the way that I am. But you can do literally everything with this. And once you start watching the tutorials, you're going to realize, like, holy crap, this is exactly what I was looking for. All right. So I just wanted to, like I said, I wanted to bring this to your attention now. Normally, I would have just waited a little bit until we covered a few other things, LODs and other things. But I figured, why wait? This is definitely worth having now and getting used to it now. And you can start implementing this, like I said, into your, into your workflow and using this in your asset creation. You will not be sorry that you did. All right. So I'm going to quit, fumbling my way through this one. And I'm going to let you head on over to the website, grab your copy, get started. I know you're probably excited about it. I know I was when I found it. I couldn't believe it was free, but it is. So eventually I do want to get some other videos out there on other applications that I use, because I do have other applications that I have not gone over in a video. I have separate applications that I use to convert my DDS images to make my bitmaps. You can do it in bulk. You don't have to open up paint.net or GIMP or Photoshop, none of that stuff. You just open a program, load your images, and you can convert 50 of them in one shot if you want to. You can do your bitmaps, convert to DDS, BC 1 through 7, all that stuff, right? So it does it really nice. I'll show you where to get that program, how to use it. We'll go through different add-ons that I use for Blender, like Simple Bake, stuff like that are must-haves, right? You just have to have them. The reason I haven't gotten to most of these videos yet is just because there's just so much to go over, especially, the channel's young and there's so much I haven't covered. I could sit here just, 24 hours a day for a month. And after a month, I still have more that I need to go over. So anyhow, I'll be throwing random things at you here and there, but this is something that I feel like you need now, right? So don't be shy. Go out there, grab yourself a copy, and be happy that you did. With that being said, I'm Bauer Brown. See you on the next one.